for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love Portland. I love Oregon. And I've got family in Ashland. So to be able to come up here and try to share some experiences with you is it's a pleasure for me. So thank you for having me. Again, my name is Daniel Lace. I'm the head coach at UC Davis. I do have an endowed position. And it's funny that my title is so long, but you got to honor the people that gave the money to endow the position. So I'm the child of Mizell family's director of men's water polo. And the cool thing about that, honestly, is that it's the first endowed coaching position at UC Davis, right? And so for water polo, that's big, because anything that we can do in college to lessen sort of the financial burden on athletic departments with our sport is always helpful, because we always feel like our sport's in a perilous state, when budgets get tight. But actually lately, they've been adding a couple men's water polo programs, so that's really, really encouraging. So I've been at UC Davis since 2013. I'm not here today as a representative of UC Davis. I'm here as a representative of USA Water Polo and the coach education program. In the summer of 1984, I started to play water polo. Long time ago. My mom put me into the sport because we had a great local high school team. I'd played soccer, I'd played baseball and basketball growing up, but no water polo. And we know that's different today, right? Because everybody starts at 8, and if you don't start at 8, the world's gonna explode, right? And all of that stuff. I swam a little bit, but I caught the fever somehow. You know how it goes. If you're here, you probably have water polo fever. If you're old enough, you remember that sticker that said "Water polo, it's a way of life." And something happens where it just became something that I just loved. And I was lucky enough to have a great high school program in my local public high school, which is now getting more and more rare because everything's moving to these private schools in Southern California and in Northern California. I don't know if that's happening here, but had I grown up one district over and gone to Buena Park instead of Sunny Hills, my world would be different. I wouldn't be here today. So I was lucky, and then I ended up playing for 14 years. So I played till I was 28 years old. I played in college at USC. I played on the national team. In the training group for the 1996 games in Atlanta. But my dream was not an Olympic dream. My dream was to try to live in a foreign country and play water polo. And I knew that there was leagues over there, and I spoke some Spanish. My mom was a Spanish teacher, so we had some Spanish going on in the house. And so I could speak a little Spanish. So if I could get to Spain, that would be great. I would go anywhere. But if I could get to Spain, that'd be awesome, because I already had some of the language. Later I learned that I had very little of the language, and that happened. So I ended up finding a team in Barcelona, Spain. I played for Barceloneta. So if you're following, European club water polo now, Barceloneta is like at the top of the league. They win every year, and I was at the very beginning of that climb. I just got there. They had a brand new facility, and the budgets were starting to increase. But at that time, there was 2 other club teams that had most of the foreign players, most of the national team players on that team. So we ended up finishing 3rd in the league. And then after I left, they continued to invest more, and now they've won the Champions League, and they're at the top of the league every year, and they've got all these phenomenal players. But I played in that first division for 3 years. And then I stayed in Barcelona for 2 more years and taught English. I retired at 28, and then I needed a break from water polo, as tends to happen sometimes. I returned to the States in 2000. I was lucky enough Jovan's first year was my senior year in college. And so I had a great relationship with Jovan. I think I had just the right dosage of Jovan. 1 year was phenomenal. I don't know if 2 years would have been great, but he was kind enough to let me come back and be a volunteer. So I volunteered as an assistant at USC on the men's and women's side for a couple years. I got a job teaching Loyola boys team, Loyola High School in Los Angeles for 1 season. I lucked out in a major stroke of luck and got hired to work for Ratko Rudic in the 2004 Olympic Games cycle. So from 2003 to 2004, I became the assistant coach for one of the greatest coaches in water polo history, if not the greatest. 5 gold medals with different countries. So working for him was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. It changed everything, really. So I went to the games in Athens, 2004. After that, I started coaching the Rose Bowl program in Pasadena, so I did that for 9 years. So that's 10 and under to 18 and under, boys and girls, all levels, teaching egg beater, passing, tactics, everything, from the boys, girls, all the way up. I worked as an assistant coach at Los Angeles Valley College for Jim McMillan. So if some of you have been around for a while, you know Jim. He's an awesome dude. So I did that. I coached junior college. And then I worked as an assistant at UCLA. So I'm like one of the few people in sports history that has worked at both SC and UCLA. Like I'm cross party lines. I'm a person without a country. And so yeah. And then I became the UC Davis head coach 10 years ago, and now I'm coaching my daughter's 1400 girls team. So I've a lot of experience. And so I'm sharing this information with you because I'm like you, and I'm like the athletes that you coach. And I'm proof that the sport can open doors that people may never have known existed. I can remember being like a sophomore or junior in high school where, you know, the conversation started about playing college water polo. I'd been playing for 2 years, and people talked about whether they were going to play. Are you going to play? Are you going to play? And I go, I don't know. Somebody asked me if I'm going to play in college. I said, I don't know. Should I? And they go, yeah. And I go, oh, maybe I should. You know, like I didn't realize that at the time. But then slowly over time, your outlook can change. So with the right amount of work, luck, and perseverance, great things can happen. And you guys are proof of that. I mean, you guys are producing players that are playing really well and playing at top universities in the United States, and that's great. I'm so encouraged by that. I'm so happy when I see players from out of state coming to California, coming to the top schools, and I'm so hopeful that Oregon will have a team at some point. I think that would be amazing, and I would jump at that opportunity if it ever opened up. But I want, as a former college player, club coach, and current college coach, I have some experience in training athletes to play in college and recruiting those players, and I'd like to share a little bit of my experience with you. That's all I'm doing. I don't stand up here and, really when they, except for like you, usually when they ask you to come and speak, it just means you're older and you've been around for a long time,
I'm 32.
Yeah, well, I got you by a few years. And I don't pretend to know everything about anything. I'm taking notes on his presentation, on the one before it. And so I don't want you to come here, or to you to think that, oh, here comes a guy from California who coaches college and he's going to tell you everything that's not what this is about. I'm going to share some experiences, and I appreciate your questions and your feedback. Because I like to continue to learn. And so I can learn from your questions. So no stupid questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. Well, there'll be time for Q&A at the end, but along the way, I tend to forget if I don't ask right away. Okay? You know how it goes. If you have a question, somebody else probably does as well. And I'd like to encourage an open dialogue about this kind of stuff. Okay? So don't hesitate if you have a question. Like I said, there'll be time at the end to talk about stuff. So, okay, we're going to talk about what college coaches are looking for. We're going to talk about what coaches can do, and then we're going to talk about what players can do to sort of make things to help themselves. Okay. One, what are college coaches looking for? Okay, when I'm recruiting, when coaches are recruiting, we're looking at our team. Sometimes I got to have a goalie. Like I can't play without a goalie. Or somebody who can't stop the ball in the goal. You need a goalie. So we start with positions, right? And so those positions need to be filled. For example, this year I need a goalie. So I've got maybe 2-3 recruiting spots, 3-4, something. One of those has to be a goalkeeper. So of the 90 right-handed drivers that are contacting me, I got to tell them, you have to wait. I need a goalie first. And recruits need to understand that, and you can help them to understand that, especially the right-handed drivers of the world, of which there are so many, from like 5'11" to 6'1". I'm a 4,900 free. You're in this massive group of people that I want to go play. Well, you're a part of a huge group. So you can help them to understand that, and sometimes coaches need to be upfront and say, look, I gotta get a goalie and I gotta get a center defender before I can start looking into your group. Okay? So that's probably priority number one. Okay? After that, and that could finish the recruiting class really, sometimes, depending on how many spots you have. After that, we're getting into physical factors, okay? Like size, speed, skill, fundamentals, okay? Coaches don't recruit on size alone. I know there's some discussion on Water Polo Planet if you like that website and the gossip. Oh, we only recruit big players. That's not true. Some of the best players in the history of the game have been 6 feet tall. Tony Azevedo is not that tall. I think I'm taller than him actually, but he's way better than me. Okay. However, at the college level, this is a big man's game. Okay, and the simple fact is, a smaller person wrestling against a bigger guy for 28 minutes, the smaller person is going to get more tired, and the smaller team is going to get worn out. So, what I always tell my players is, or recruits, and Davis Water Polo Club kids, is like, look, you're limited in this particular area. You're limited in size. You better be lightning quick. You better be smart. You better be tough as nails, and you better have a competitive drive that says, I'll do anything. I'm not afraid of anything. You got to make up for factors that you're limited in with other characteristics. If you're low in size, then you better be high in speed. If you're not that fast, maybe you're bigger. Then you play center. Maybe the coach can say, okay, he's a little bit slower,